recording. Beautiful. Start streaming. Look at me. And give my little stream of me. Now, here we go. We're gonna mute that. That's gonna be really annoying otherwise. Now, how did I pop this out yesterday? Let's find out. Chat appearance, perhaps it's that. Nope. There was a little pop out. Yeah, pop out chat. Got it. Okay, so that's number one. And number two, we're gonna share and grab that. And we can kill that. We can give this to everybody. So we're gonna just boot. Let's do my friend Lucky. She likes to watch me stream. And just to chat. Get over here. That isn't everyone. Boom. Nice. All right. There we go. Give this to my pals. I wonder if these guys watch me stream. I guess we'll find out together. All right. So, chat one with my big face in it. Let's just make that a little smaller. Chat number two. Look at that bad boy. I like that. Can't wait for the shadow back. It's gonna happen. It is 100% gonna happen. There's little I can do to keep the shenanigans to a minimum here. Like, when you invite the amount of hedonic excess that I have with the design of Yamata-No-Orochi, you know that your game is not long for this world. Okay, so we made some progress since last time. What did we do? Well, first of all, we, of course, updated our pronouns, so now we have a girl, Yamata-No-Orochi, the lady. I think that we're going to go with she, her pronouns, even though I think they, them is probably a little more accurate. We're kind of making a Slanesh-esque goddess out of Yamata-No-Orochi. I think that they is more accurate, but I think that she, well, first of all, we'll diversify the pronouns by introducing a binary, which is fine. And also, they is kind of an awkward pronoun to write with. It seems like you're referring to a group, and I don't know, or like royalty. And I don't know. It's better than neopronouns. Neopronouns are extremely weird to write with. They don't obfuscate the meaning. They're clearer in terms of meaning, but like they sound really wacky. I think probably the least wacky ones are the ones with X's, and if your least wacky option has an X in it, you're incredibly wacky, I'm afraid. I'm sorry. I don't make the rules about X's being wacky. Neither does Elon Musk. He was a big fan of the letter X. Anyone who ever tells me that Elon Musk is a genius, I'm going to point them directly to the decision to turn Twitter into a letter and be like, are you sure he's a genius? Are you certain? Even if you are an Elon Musk fan, like, you got to look at that decision and be like, really? You think that was the best thing to do? I've taken to calling it Twix recently because it's funny. Okay, so we made some progress since last time. What do we got here? Well, I added a new keyword, temptation. So in case you wanted to be like a popular 1950s band, now you have a keyword for that. God, are they 1950s? They might be 60s. I don't know much about the Temptations. Okay, so I should probably make that a little bit bigger also. Should I? No, it's fine. It's fine the way it is. But yeah, so the idea of temptation is to get you hooked on drugs or drug-like things. So what this does is it just makes an imbalance where you have to indulge in a thing. So a really straightforward imbalance. But I also added in this other system where it kind of acts like loyalty. And loyalty is one of my favorite simple stats in the game because you can track it really easily. It's seriously just a number that's 1 to 10. and it just kind of determines how likely you are to succumb to temptation. And so I thought that, well, that is perfect for temptation, you know. Or it's also like whether or not you're going to be cowardly in the face of danger and that kind of stuff. But this is kind of great because you can do something similar with addiction. And so the way I've got it working right now is that you roll a d10 to test your addiction once during a scene, whenever you have a chance to indulge in your addiction, right? And if you roll over your current imbalance rank with that d10, you're actually not tempted. You can indulge anyway if you want to, but if you don't indulge, you reduce the rank of the imbalance and you reduce the addiction attribute by 1. But if you do roll over, or if you do roll equal to or under, then you have to either take the imbalance negative or indulge for the rest of the scene. So that's a nice, like, I really like the parameterizing of that. That's very clean because it means that the scene kind of is also about you fighting your addiction or succumbing to it. Now, if you indulge, you don't take the penalty anymore, but you increase your addiction by 1 at the end of the scene. But if you don't indulge and you just take the penalty the whole time, you also reduce your addiction by 1. And I really like that because you never really know exactly what chemistry is going to hit in your head that's going to make you desire your addiction or not. And the worse it is, the bigger part of your life it is, and the more it can affect you. And it also has this kind of, it punishes you for fighting against it, and it rewards you for indulging in it, but it ultimately is corrupting to you. So this is this is exactly what I want it to do. And it's not a huge amount of extra rules, and it really gives you this ability to kind of like socially control people by having their addiction without directly commanding them, which is what like Ravana does. So actually a lot of the social charms that I've designed for Yamata-No-Orochi just give you a worse version of this imbalance, but don't actually give you direct control over the person that you're messing with. And again, that makes sense. When you addict someone to drugs and you control them through access to those drugs, you control the access, but you can't control the chaotic behavior that they exhibit when they're on drugs or how desperate they get to get them. So like that works really well, I think. It's a soft, indirect, and dangerous kind of control mechanism that works really well for a temptation-based character, which the scions of Yamata-No-Orochi are going to be. So we definitely fleshed these out considerably. I think I only had the poisons last time, and as you can see, there's tons more. I actually got all of the novice and the expert written this morning. I woke up and just started writing. It was great. I was so happy. But okay, so we've got, let's see here, what did I do? Okay, so I actually changed the name of this one. It's now Anticipation Foiling Strike. So I wanted to get away from, the initial one was a little bland. This is a little perkier, I feel like. And it works the same way. It forces your enemy into this bind where they can either pay an effort whenever you attack them, or they can reduce their defense by 1d10. I like whenever you have to make weird trade-offs in the moment. I feel like that reevaluation of the costing mechanisms are really, really fun. And it means that there's always this interesting variety to combat. And it also means that because there's a lot of stability whenever you get like a technique, if you fight the same person twice, they're going to largely have the same techniques, maybe a couple new ones, but you'll kind of know this trick. And one of the great things about designing a style is that you can embed a trick like this into multiple different moves. So strategy rowing offense, which is the expert version of that, is the same thing. It does 2 effort or reduce by 2d10. I went way too far there. Ta-da. So it's largely the same move. It's more powerful, and it doubles the costs that you have to pay. But it's the same trick. And because you'll know that trick, you might keep a couple of like dummy, like low roll effort around where you'd usually like use them for something else, like store them in focus, or you'd use them for a defense or something, just so that you have enough to burn through, that you're not like having to break up powerful sets just to keep your defense at a reasonable number against stuff like this. So you kind of know, like you kind of have some strategies where you can adopt in later battles or in later rounds where you can kind of mitigate this stuff, which I think is nifty. But it still is a surprising and powerful move. And yeah, it never really loses its edge. Like the trade-off is always going to be there. It always has something to say for itself. And because it's mathematically comparable to other moves, it doesn't have an advantage that gives it a big push over those. It just diversifies what you can do. And diversifying what you can do with techniques is actually really important. As anyone who's actually played the game will tell you, you'll usually have 2 or 3 rounds of combat unless it's a real slobber knocker. And during those earlier rounds of combat, what you roll really matters. So almost every single attack in the game is 6 through 9. Almost every single defense is 0 through 3. Very rarely do the other facings, 4 through 6s of the world, really get a lot of play. So when you buy a technique, that's a consideration that is really strong. Can I use more of the dice that I roll? And if you have this dead zone in the middle of the whole range of dice where you don't have anything you can empower them with, that's a real weakness, even if you have powerful techniques. Having a little versatility instead of more power is actually considerably more powerful, because in those early rounds, if you get like a set of 3 facing 5, you can't do much with those with like something powerful like strategy ruining offense. But you could use Python and Brace here and get a really good lock on somebody in an early round, which could really screw with them. Python and Brace also is fun. This particular one is inspired by the scene in Demon City Shinjuku where what's his name fights the Snake Lady. I like that the NPCs fight some of the mini bosses in that. That's like a 90-minute cartoon, but there's a lot of really fun stuff that happens in it. Well, she's like a mini boss, and the NPC doctor is just like, nah, you're not gonna fight the main character. I'm gonna kill you. And it's a fun little fight, and she has like rubbery, flubbery limbs, and she like gets him in a grapple on the pool table, and she's gonna kill him with acid spit, which is awesome. So he blows up one of her arms, which she can grow back, and then he's like, okay, well, so you've got regeneration, and you got stretchy limbs and acid for spit. So guess what really interacts poorly with acid? And he like shoves this thing of alcohol down her throat, and like all the alcohol starts burbling, and it just explodes like a grenade and takes her out. And it's amazing. Also, watch Demon City Shinjuku if you haven't watched it. It's amazing. It's one of the best animes ever made. And you'll see all the stuff that I stole from it. Like literally, I use the whole buffalo with that one. It's all in the core book. Like all the monsters, all the demons, Rebbe Ra's in there. It's all in there. I just robbed them blind. They're it's such a usable, like it's such a visual. Everything about it is good, but even if you were just like, I want to run Lone Wolf Fist, and you kind of didn't know how, I would just say, okay, literally just watch Demon City Shinjuku. Just watch that movie, and you'll know exactly what it will be like, right? You have a reluctant hero, and then you go into Suicide Heaven where the demons are, and you fight a bunch of them going on this quest, and you encounter some helpful NPCs, and then you have a fight with an evil sorcerer guy with a super sword that can shoot pink evisceration beams at you. And if you master your kung fu, then you'll be able to beat him. And that's Lone Wolf Fist. That's the perfect encapsulation of it. It even has a glass cannon moment, which I think is really funny. And I'm just going to spoil. This is 90 minutes. It's like a 30-year-old anime. You've probably seen it by now, but I'm just going to spoil the ending. So he gets a powerful magic sword, and there's literally like 2 fights at the end, right? There's Rebbe Ra at the absolute height of his power, and here comes our plucky protagonist, and they're fighting. And Rebbe Ra hits him with a beam, and he goes flying off. And he's like, oh god, he breaks his sword. He flies off to what everyone believes is his doom. But he finds his dad's magic sword, which has a soul in it, picks it up, and he's like, oh, sweet magic sword. Goes for round 2, attacks Rebbe Ra once with 1 attack, and Rebbe Ra's like, you can't beat me, I'll block it. And he seems like he blocks it, and then he's like, oh, that worked great. And he has this smug look on his face for like half a second, and then he does one of those, and he explodes everywhere. And it's the funniest last, like, it's a great, well, first of all, it's very true to form. Like, that's kind of how the game works. It's a very glass cannon-y kind of rocket tag game. But second of all, it's really, really funny. And I think if you can see and appreciate the humor in that doesn't really, we still have the same dramatic arc, right? Like, we're still getting the resolution of the fight. The hero's still beating the villain and all that. So that's all good. But it's also funny. It's also a little bit wacky. And I think that's an energy you need to bring into Lone Wolf Fist. Like when you see the super cool turns into bats, absolute motherfucker of a sorcerer just explode with a big goofy cartoon face. It's great. It kind of deflates him a little bit in his last moments, and that's really important. Like if you don't understand that kind of like wry humor, that kind of like goofiness, I think you might be a little too brittle to run Lone Wolf Fist. I think you have to be a little bit zany and roll with the punches, such as they are. So, I didn't come here to tell you that. Oh, hey again, Fidget Swift. All right. Well, I came here to write, so I've got lots of moves here. So I gave him, let's see, he's got attacks that mess with your effort. Well, she does. And she's got defenses, and these make you all rubbery and elastic too, so you can you can squeeze yourself and like go pufferfish on people. So I think that's nifty. So that gives you lots of weird stuff you can do there. There's temptation to sin, and this one's kind of cool. Let me show you those a little bit. So fork tongue innuendo, which I was really happy with that name, by the way. That's like the perfect name. You have to tempt your target with something they desire, right? And if you tempt them, if you have something they desire, you could make a heart-based action, and you can create an imbalance based on that. And it's only rank 1. It's kind of weak, but you can make a pretty deadly imbalance, the addiction imbalance, right? So the more powerful version of that, innocence to spoiling offer. Again, really happy with how horrible that sounds. That just sounds just vile. In addition to that, you can establish a custom. Now, I outlined this in the core book under the heart rules, and thank God, because I don't want to have to redefine what you can do with your social stuff every time I design a new power set. That's what they did in Exalted in most White Wolf games. They have like this super lightweight core system where it's like, oh, you can use socialize to do social stuff, and they never give you any parameters to that. So by the time they get to the point where you get specific powers, they have to parameterize it, and suddenly that kind of retroactively parameterizes what you can do. It depends on what you're offering, I guess. Hey, Mighty Owl. Yeah, it's a consideration. You might not be able to survive the Riz. This is some very dangerous Riz, you see. Anyway, so I parameterized my skills in the core book. So there's already like, and I parameterize them in such a way where I'm kind of cool. And the effort chart, the effort dice force me to do this because all effort can do anything. So even if you might specialize as the socialized guy or the strong guy or the fast guy or whatever, effort can do anything. So you have access to all of the effect charts as every kind of character. That's an unusual style of designing, and it kind of it kept me very honest about like what this game could be about in very broad terms. Like every single Lone Wolfist of a given degree is a charismatic, strong, tough, fast, genius who can like survive being buried alive in hot lava. That's pretty broad as like a character concept that like everybody could do at a certain level, and I actually really like that because it means that you can kind of just expect them to be kind of generally superhuman. And when you think about it, and when I think about it, whenever you have an ensemble of superheroes, like Western style comic book superheroes, I've been watching Justice League Unlimited in case you couldn't tell, but when you have that, even if they have massively disparate kinds of powers in their own comic books, they all kind of become the same general variety of super strong, super tough, super fast, And if you compare that with, like, say, Dragon Ball Z, everybody is super strong, everybody's super tough, everybody's super fast. They've all got like these crazy abilities where they can see chi and like move faster than people can see and blah blah blah, blah, and they can fly. Everybody can fly in Dragon Ball Z. And a fun thing about that is I was watching Dragon Ball at the suggestion of the Discord, and not everybody should be able to fly. I don't think, like, flying was something you had to be taught, and it was a particular skill in Dragon Ball, and not everybody could do it. Like, the reason that Son Goku used his little cloud as Nimbus is because he didn't know how. Like, when did he learn how to fly? I've not gotten to those episodes yet, but like, at some point he figures it out. Also, he gets psychic powers when he touches your head. That happened in the Namek arc for like an episode, and then we just abandoned that. But yeah, the thing that kind of teaches you about the audience expectations of either superhero ensemble things or, like Dragon Ball Z-esque, shonen ensemble things is that we do kind of expect everyone to be able to do everything. I mean, like, yeah, Krillin's got his Ki and Zen, right? But also, he's strong, tough, able to fly. He's come back from the dead several times. Like, there was a point when he got handed the Genki Dama, the Spirit Bomb, by Goku, because Goku had all his bones crushed by Vegeta in their first fight, because that fight didn't go well for Goku. I'm kind of, like, Vegeta won that fight. Do we ever address that? Vegeta won. He turned into the Ozaru, the really big ape guy, and he squished Goku, and his friends cut off his tail, and then he got squished under Gohan, and it was like this really ridiculous, like, corner case circumstance that forced Vegeta to take the L there overall, and it wasn't just like against Goku. He beat Goku. Like, he spanked him, right? Goku was toast, and Vegeta only barely lost. So I don't see why he got obsessed with proving he was stronger than Goku. I mean, like, maybe Namek kind of, like, because he was getting his ass kicked on Namek by, like, Rikum, right? And Goku comes in and just, like, wipes the floor with Rikum. So maybe that's when that came in. But, like, from their first meeting, like, Vegeta was way deadlier than Goku. Like, it was a super uphill battle for Goku, and Goku failed. He got his butt kicked. So, anyway, but yeah, there's a point where Krillin gets the Spirit Bomb, and he throws it. And that's like, of course, like, you couldn't even have the Spirit Bomb to yourself, Goku. So, yeah, he can also do a Kamehameha wave. So, I guess what I'm saying is, like, that's true to the genre, right? And this is a very shonen kind of game. So it's true to the genre, you can kind of do everything. The problem with that is that it makes it kind of conceptually murky what a character is, like, about, So I'm really glad to make these powers that give you really specific things, because your character, if you choose to focus on it, can be about this power set. And I think it's pretty telling. This is actually an idea that I'm taking from Exalted, the Exalted Infernal specifically. It's pretty telling that the powers of the Asura are the Asura. They do these things, and they are these things. And so you become them as you learn their powers. So I think that's nifty keen torpedo. I think that's pretty cool. Yeah. And again, that was an idea that was kind of introduced in Exalted the Infernals, and I liked it a lot. I do. Actually, I wonder if I dilute that a little bit by creating the little titans out of them that I do, because they can't really access these powers whenever they're in titan form. Like, they have their titan powers. That might be something I iron out a little bit in a later draft, but it works fine now. Anyway, other thing I gave this guy, so initially, and you can actually see this in my notes, I actually crossed this out. So initially, and I hope you can see this, I had two Envenom powers. I had poison powers, but I also had Envenom powers, and the idea was you could add poison to things. The problem is, I was thinking about these after I created those powers, and they already have the Envenom keyword. So Envenom as a keyword allows you to use your magic to make your attack or anything you touch have the poison that you're generating with your magic. Okay? So I already have both of these with every one, like every instance of the poison making things. They already have Envenom. So those would do nothing. And I had to think, like, kind of on the spot, like, well, what else have I got? So with this one, I decided to give him a Healy power. One of the things that is going to happen eventually is you get to have a power where you have like a shield, and if your limbs or heads get cut off, you Hydra out 2 more. So that's really fun. Um, yeah, there's a lot going on in this notebook. My son wrote a bunch of images up there. This was lots of fun. But yeah, no, I really like that, by the way. There's so much going on. This is Mark 3 of Shambara. That's not even all. Like, you like that? Check this out. This is the pre-writing of all of that. So, that's fun. That's lots of fun. I also got Vritra on there. I don't know if I'm going to do Vritra next or Shambara next, because I'm going to leave it up to a vote for you degenerates, and you can tell me what you want to see me write next. Venom is an amazing keyword, dude. I also want you to Hydra out your head. 2 heads are better than 1, for reasons I won't elaborate on. But I am writing a Sin Demon, so, make of that what you will. But Envenom is awesome, but it meant that I couldn't use Envenom as a power, because you'd just be paying for a thing you already had. So, I decided to ape an earlier power. This is one from Shuten Doji, where he gets to eat a lot of food and he regenerates. So I was like, that's kind of great. What if I did that with partying? so you can party hard and just do the worst kind of sins, and you get health back. And I really like that. That's lots of fun. You can even regenerate lost limbs by partying hard enough, and that's just great. And the benefit of that, is pretty clear. And I wanted to make sure you didn't take any extra damage from that. So that also makes you immune to the effects of over partying. Like, you can get wasted or drunk or high or whatever, but you don't have to worry about that hurting you more than it would normally mess with you. Like, you could get drunk, but you'll never, get so drunk that you die. But if you do get so drunk that you would die, instead of that, you heal. I also love the idea of just, crawling, broken, bleeding, with, a missing arm into your harem and being like, okay, guys, we need to spend a couple of hours regenerating me. You know what to do. That's funny. And again, you need a little wackiness to run this game. So there's all that. Also, okay, so I've got, the other thing I gave him is a grab attack. This is a Mr. Fantastic, elastic, stretch your limb out and grab somebody attack. That should have period. Boop, there we go. And I've got a more powerful version of that. Here we go. Yeah, that lets you sprout new limbs and grab people with them. So that's lots of fun. And that being the next step in that one means that whenever you get to the point where you can Hydra out new heads and limbs, we have a little bit to work off of. And I really like that kind of stepped powers. When I told you the thing about the meditation on sin, where you're partying to heal to get you to exaltation of blasphemy, it was exaltation with a U first, and then I realized that it didn't mean what I wanted it to mean, so it exaltation with an A. I updated it, but yeah. So heal through sin is my note to myself there, and then sin equals holy ritual is my note here. So I was like, okay, well, I'll make it spirit, and you already have the ability to summon demons with spirit, but it's an hour-long ritual in the book. So here, gossip brings life. It does. As long as it's sinful. As long as you can gossip hard enough to physically injure yourself, then yes. You're a Golden Girls fan, so you know that's possible. So this is fun. So if someone's already got an addiction imbalance, you can use that to speed run around the 1 hour requirement and do it as an action and pull a demon through their imbalance into the real world with Exaltation of Blasphemy. So that's kind of great, right? And it acts as the spirit action to do that. It also generally can be used to boost spirit actions, and I imagine there's some profane version of that you're doing, like the sexy, Hellraiser style of, spirit rituals there. You also specifically pull it through their Ajna chakra, which is interesting to me. I'm basing all of this stuff on the fire chakra because I already used water as an element, so we're using fire for this one because I think passion, fire, that works okay. So it also has a lot of other little things, like the rank of their imbalance caps how high your rank can be, which means the more powerful their addiction, the more powerful a demon you can pull out of hell. Also, the more powerful their imbalance, the more control you have over the demon, because the demon has an equal ranked addiction imbalance to the same thing. So I like that a lot. That's fun. And it also means that you kind of have a reason to mess with. Oops, mess that up. You kind of have a reason to mess with your party members, because if they have an imbalance that you guys can kind of keep under control, it's a source of demons when you need them. You can quickly get as many demons as you want that also have a similar way of controlling them. So that's lots of fun. So, as you'll recall from last stream, if you were here, I've got two kinds of poison. I already did bone-corrupting venom and soul-corrupting venom, so those are done. So I really only have 2 techniques in Master and 2 techniques in Supreme, and then the ultimate technique, and then we are done. So that's not a lot of writing. And that's cool, because I sat here talking for half an hour instead of writing, so that's good. Okay, so I think that gives you an idea. I think that catches you guys up on everything. So we're moving on to the master level techniques. So we've got 2 different ones. Let's see. One of them is the Hydra regrow stuff. That one sounds like so much fun. And then the other one is corrupt groups. So you might have noted, sharp-eyed observers who are nerds for my stuff may have noted, that both Innocence Despoiling offer and its prerequisite here for tongue innuendo have a lot in common with the Ravana social powers. So that's lots of fun. Let's see. Good old final side strategy. There we go. So, yeah. So, if you look at his stuff, you've got, where is it? Yeah, Rightful Command. So, Rightful Command is his equivalent to that. Now, he's a king and a big shouty guy, so he just tells you to do what he says, and you have a diabolic fealty towards him. So he's real specific about that stuff. It's a lot more direct, but the cool thing about that is within that imbalance, it specifically says this imbalance does not require that you act in the character's best interest. Like, you are sworn to them, kind of, you know? I'll just kind of give you the overview. You can't oppose or disobey them directly. They issue you a command per round, and it can prevent or require any action of their choosing. And they can choose any of your powers. Basically, they get to tell you what to do. To the best of your abilities, as hard as you can, or similar language. But the thing about this is you make the commands, and this either makes them do it or take an imbalance, but also there's a lot of wiggle room. It actually lets you directly oppose them, but you have to do it in this, like, obsequious, conniving, like, otherwise slippery kind of way. So it's a very direct, very powerful command, but it allows enough wiggle room that you can kind of just suck your way out of it. And that's what his stuff does. So he's got a very different way of gaining control. And so his stuff is a lot simpler, right? You say something and you command them and they get an imbalance. Easy. And then if you look at the expert version of that, and you've got, oh god, he's got really cool stuff. Let's see. Where is that one? It's not one of these. Yeah, all commanding edict. There it is. I need to rearrange these a little bit. So you'll notice with Yamata-No-Orochi, since he's later writing, there's a kind of echo about where you see things. So, and that's kind of echoed here. So, like, the first thing you get with Yamata-No-Orochi is always the poison. The second thing you get is always the attack. The third thing you get is always the dodge. And so there's kind of a symmetry about the way you read his stuff. You'll note here with Ravana, I had failed to realize that I should be doing that, and so his stuff is kind of all over the map. It's however it came to me. That's less organized when you read it, and it isn't as easy to absorb. So little tricks like that can really help with the comprehensibility of your text, and it also super helps whenever there's a GM who has to get to a power in the middle of a fight, and they have seconds to get to it, and it's like a 200-plus page book. Like, it can be very daunting to be like, okay, what are the rules for poison? I know they're in here. Where are those rules? Even I, when I have all the time in the world, sometimes struggle to find the rules I wrote in my own game. That's how role-playing games are used. They're cookbooks, right? You use them in the middle of doing something, and it's all very time-sensitive, and you need your answers right now. Unfortunately, role-playing game writers, like yours truly, like to bloviate, and so very frequently, this is actually really good writing, but every once in a while, you'll see me go off on a little tangent, like, oh, you gotta do this and that, like that isn't giving me a lot of information very quickly. That is giving me information quickly. Little bullet points. Bullet points are the best thing ever. As a GM, when I'm like, okay, you're persuading individual, cool. There we go. Here's the rank, here's the bullet point, that's what it does. Bam, that's beautiful. It's right under heart, which is exactly where I'd expect to look for that. Yeah, bullet points, they work. So yeah, anyway. So I didn't use the same strategy with him, and I'll have to rearrange these, and that's fine. I'll fix it in a little bit. This editing program, and I think this got mentioned last time, but this is actually the text, right? This is the alpha draft, the alpha layout. This is all of it. Because you can do the writing and the layout and the editing all at once. And it gives you an alpha of all of those things simultaneously. It's a really good way to conserve all of your effort. And I know that because the first time I tried this, I wrote everything and then I put it into this, and I had to painstakingly reformat all of it. Here, I can reformat as I write, and since I already kind of know what the writing is supposed to look like, because I have an example in the core book, I can just do all the alpha right here, and I immediately know that I need art for this page. This page needs art, or it needs something, because all that empty space looks like garbage, especially in an actual printout. This isn't so bad. These little things at the very end are fine. This is a nightmare. Look at this whole column of solid white. That's garbage. No, we don't want that. That's bad. So what this will probably be is these are all probably going to be in little chunks of art, and it's going to be on a big piece of art, so that this isn't a big blank space. This is something visually arresting that still delivers information. I was about to grab... Goodness, there's some amazing game design that does that exact thing. Actually, you know what? Here's a good one. Ugh. There's actually a fantastic version of that in Legends of the Wulin, which I will show you if I can find it, which I might be able to, because Legends of the Wulin also has the same problem that my game has, where it's just piles and piles of extremely difficult to parse text without any clear way of getting the information you need in a timely manner. It happens. I was actually working on the GM screen for it not too long ago. My pal David Ramirez commissioned me to do that for him, and who was the guy that actually publishes this in China? I forget his name. But that fella. And so I did. They paid me for it. It was nice. It's been a long time since I ran this game, so it was kind of a trip. But yeah, it was fine. And I was doing a lot of copy and paste at that point. I was just like, yeah, here we go. Here it is. This is beautiful. Check this out. Ta-da! Isn't that beautiful? Yeah, so this is the elemental wheel. And it shows you in one image all the elements, right? The element they have direct power over, what they arise into, and then what controls them and what they control. And so you just have this beautiful... all the relationships are immediately described, and the specifics of each element are also described in one piece of art. It's very visually arresting, and it communicates what it needs to very, very quickly. This is the apex of game design. It does not get better than this. This is beautiful. It's satisfying to look at. It immediately gives you a pile of information in an extremely dense package, and you literally just have to flip to that page and look at it. You don't have to find the key sentence in a giant paragraph. There it is. That's what you need. Oh, it controls water, and wood beats it, and it is risen by fire, and it rises into metal. Beautiful. Absolutely peak game design. Cannot get better. The effect charts are close. I stole those from Marvel Heroic, also a fantastic game to steal from. But yeah, so I told you all that for a reason. I've forgotten what it was. Anyway, let's scoot forward again. Do. So, let's see. How did I, since I'm trying to make all this, the sequencing of these things rhyme a little bit, let's scoot forward here a little bit. Okay, so there's Yamata-No-Orochi. So one of the things that's going to make that a little more difficult is it's going to go from 6 powers to 3 powers. Master and Supreme level only have 3 powers each. So we've already got the Venom there, the Bone Corrupting. So what's directly after Venom? Let's find out. The first thing is Venom. The second thing is Offense. The third thing is Defense. So, and then after that's the more esoteric stuff. So the Offense needs to be the next thing that I write down, and then the Defense and esoteric stuff. And these are going to kind of overlap a little bit. Yeah, I can also hold a GM screen over my head and fly away. So I am the Mary Poppins of game design. Yeah, so here we go. So we're going to combine, let's see. What does this one do? Let's find out together. Oh, that's right. I don't really have a direct attack here. Okay, so there's a social one next, and the shield. I think we're going to go offense/social, defense/esoteric, and those are going to be the combination points. Now, an interesting drawback to that is that means at a master level, there's not going to be a clear offensive attack. There's only going to be Bone Corrupting Venom. Very powerful if you hit with it, but it's only going to be able to empower an attack of expert level or below. So, and I ran into this when I was making Yama's powers too, where he had a lot of stuff going on at the lower levels, and so when I rose up, what I would tend to design for the more interesting aspects of his powers, but that would not give me sufficient space in those higher tiers to give him solid offense and defense options. So when I reapproached him, I went to those and I was like, okay, I need to just make this an attack power. I don't want to overthink this. This just needs to be what it is. So since I'm doing poison and social contagion and defense, this is going to be a very defense tilted character build as it gets more powerful. Let me see. Yeah, so yeah, and the other thing is, at Supreme level, one of the Supremes that every one of them has is turned into Landscape. This is going to be turned into Poisoned Rivers. So, Soul Corrupting Venom is as close to an ultimate attack as this is going to get. Now, that said, it actually sits really nicely here, because it disperses into the atmosphere, it poisons the hell out of one person, and it disperses into the atmosphere, and it poisons the whole tract. So that's kind of what you expect a Supreme level attack to do. It's not perfect, but that's pretty good, and it fits with the sort of indirect way that Yamata-No-Orochi does stuff. So that'll be fine. I'm not worried about that. Turn into Rivers is this one, and this is going to be, yep, Corrupt Society. Make a case of Sin Lords, so that's going to be fun to write. So, here we go. This one, though, so this one doesn't disperse into the surrounding atmosphere. What it does is, if you use it in water, it corrupts the water. But that's a very big if. Now, I would like to point out that one of the things that allows you to do is pretty much, one of the prerequisites for having a society in Lone Wolfist is, and this is in the real world too, you have to have easy, almost free access to water. Like, if you don't have a source of potable water that's renewable and can sustain the population, people clear out. You cannot have a society without that. So there is an assumption and a prerequisite for any society that that's a thing. So because of that, which again is baked into the core mechanics, this is a lot deadlier. Because you know that they've got one. You have to put that somewhere in your prep, basically. So because you know they've got one, that's pretty deadly. It's not super deadly in a fight in a fight, you've only got like a rank 5 bone corrupting thing, and that's not increasing your attack power at all. So you kind of have a gulf here, you know? You're going to have to think of a way, because you've really got an offensive disadvantage if you don't have an attack at master level. And they're not really going to if I design it this way. So let's see here. There's a few options you have when you reach that kind of impasse. I could either scoot out... Let me see. I could make the shield into a balanced thing. That's probably the best thing, is just take the thing that you're missing, the element that you're missing, and graft it onto something you already want to do. The Hydra's defense is offense. It loses a head, it gets 2 more heads, and each head is a weapon. So I think that that's probably the best thing to do to fill that offense gap, because it really is a big enough gap that it would give them a pretty significant disadvantage. But if you have Bone Corrupting Venom, and you can be sustaining a technique that both defends you and gives you a consistent multi-attack advantage, even if that's not like an individually powerful attack, it works really well for the kind of strategy you would imagine Yamata-No-Orochi would have, which is to say, instead of using one very powerful fire-breathing head, he has 8 heads. 8 heads is how many he has. And he attacks with multiple heads. And even if they're weaker individually, all of them together is a big deal. The Hydra would also use powers like that. I think the Hydra actually was poisonous when he bit you. But like having lots of heads is the attack strategy. So that works really well. So we're going to make that, this one is going to be the attack and defense, which, again, is going to rhyme with how we laid this out. Attack and defense is next after poison. And that means this last one here, the social contagion, can be our last thing. So we get to do Hydra stuff now. And obviously, we're going to call this Hydra something or other technique. So, aspect of the Hydra enlightenment. I guess that works. We'll think of something with that. And this is going to be a balanced, because it does offense and defense. So keywords, it's going to have shield, sustainable, transformation, at least those 3, maybe more. What are you going to require? What did the last one require? This. We'll make it require the same thing. That's fine. What did the attacks and defenses require? We should probably combine all of those and make this a somewhat fragile thing. Limbs. This is a mudra. Limb. Let's go with 2 limbs. Yeah, that'll work. 40, rank 5. Facing, we're going to give this a lot of versatility and make it facing any. We're going to go with endurance. Yeah, I think the Hydra should increase your endurance stuff. Yeah, that works pretty good. Okay, so now... Ugh, my knuckle was itchy. Man, I've been at this for 48 minutes. 12 more minutes and I'm going to wrap it up and call it a day. I think we're going to try to keep these streams to about an hour each. Plus, I really got to pee. If you guys really want me to stick around for another hour, I will. But yeah, I just want to show you what I was doing here. So, what are we going to do with this one? Your soul becomes as inexhaustible, and let me see, soul works into infinite paths of sin. Your body follows suit into inexhaustible permutations. That sounds rad. Okay, that's, wow, that's really how you spell permutations. Oh, it's eyeball. Permutations. What am I misspelling here? Permumations. Got it. Okay. Well, it's permumations. Ugh. I keep seeing survive the Riz whenever I look at my screen. There's no surviving this Riz. Alright. This is a shield effect, which defends you with flickering after images of interposing weapons, arms, and limbs. So you defend yourself as you block attacks with visible speed. The speed shouldn't be visible. Let's just say possible speed. That sounds cool. If you are injured, let me parameterize this. If you receive an imbalance, a physical imbalance, on an attack, or increase an imbalance by 1 or more ranks, and the injured limb splits and grows an additional limb as per, and then we're just gonna kind of tag, yeah, Lustful Dragon's Caress. Dragon. While protected. There we go. Lustful Dragon's Crest. So now you can split your head. Okay. Do I want to do counterattack with this? That'd be really powerful. Do. Let's create a fresh limb, make an attack with any effort you still possess. This strike gains +1. How many ranks should it give you? How about you may reduce the rank of your shield to increase this attack by a corresponding amount. There we go. That works pretty good. Shield. Yeah, that's kind of cool. Your shield until the end of the round. Both the shield effect, shield. Let me see. If the shield effect is sustained, all limbs grown by this technique automatically sustain sexy. Okay, so first you write it, then you think about it, then you rewrite it, then you benchmark it, then you rewrite it again. Just in case you guys were worried, like wondering what the, the specifics of that were. What is this? Oh, it's red because I'm recording. Okay. Is anyone talking to me? No, I'm actually not ignoring everyone. Awesome. That's great. We're going to mark those as red. Beautiful. Okay. There we go. But yeah, so now I've written it. Now I got to think about it. Okay, so it starts as a defense, and a pretty powerful defense. So thinking about it, I should probably reduce the facing so it's not so powerful and versatile. So now it's a little weaker. And that puts it in line with other defenses. It doesn't necessarily need a boost over those in terms of the shield effect. So it's also not balanced. It's a defense. It is actually purely a defense. So you create a shield. Defends you with flittering weapons. If you receive physical imbalance from an attack or increase in imbalance by one or more, while protected, your limit splits and grows. Possible dragon's caress. Me. Alright. At the end of the round, if sustained, your shield returns to achieved rank. I really need to make sure they know this is a shield effect at achieved rank. So at achieved rank. So that's, achieved. Okay, so you get like super blocks. And if you're injured, achieved, I always misspell achieved. If you're injured, you get extra limbs which can attack, and you can boost the attacks with your shield. So I think that covers it. Okay, so thinking it through, it is a defense, so that clarifies that very nicely. There we go. And now, I do want to make sure I'm looking at whether or not shields pop when they get hurt. I don't think they do. I went through several versions of the shield mechanic. I think at the end of the day, they don't. Here, creates and sustains a round-long defense. Once set, it cannot be boosted by or combined with other defenses. It may be used in lieu of an active or effortless defense. Yeah, here. If used against an attack which overcomes its defenses and deals damage, the shield breaks and the effect ends. So, the only way that would work is if I put in a clarifying line of text. If you forego defending with the shield, and then you receive a physical imbalance from an attack, or an increase in imbalance by one or more ranks while protected, and the injured limb splits and grows an additional limb as per Lustful Dragon's Crest. So if you forgo defending with the shield, so if an attack comes in that you could just be like nah against, then okay, so that filters in interesting ways. Now we're going to think about it again. So we're thinking about it again. So this is a shield, and its primary function as a shield is to keep you from getting your ass kicked, right? It does that pretty well, right? It is equally as good as every other shield at that. It has somewhat higher requirements, but it's fine. Usually, that will filter anyone from attacking you with something below the power of the shield, right? You're probably going to get rank 7 persistent defense out of a shield at a minimum, probably rank 8, right? The point that you're using this, rank 8. So that's really powerful. So you are likely not going to face attacks that are lower rank than that. So the attack that's going to come in, that they're going to throw at you, is going to be like a 9, an 8 or a 9. So you would have to tank that. That's really deadly. So you'd have to tank a really deadly attack. So you can use a shield anytime that you want against any defense. So they're really powerful. But you'd have to tank a real deadly attack to get to this. But if you do, you get another arm, So if they make an actual mistake and attack you with something that you could just blunt with the shield, you can turn that into a low impact hit and take an injury and grow another arm and hit them with it. So you can selectively twist it around. But the most likely scenario is that they're going to not make that obvious mistake. They're going to filter for it, and you're going to hit with something that's like 8 or 9. So this kind of sucks a little bit, because it requires them to make an actual tactical error to be very, very useful. But you still have other lesser defenses. Like, for example, even when that's being, you can do, say, good old consequence evading movements, which is rank 3. Okay, so if you use an actual decent set and a rank 3, you're probably going to get 5 or 6. So you're only going to take like maybe a rank 3 on a limb. That's not too bad. That does suck, but it's not too bad. So you poof that down to rank 3, and you can twist this around on them and get a rank like 8 counter attack against, and they probably use their most powerful attack to hit you. So this is kind of a rope-a-dope power. I really like that. It makes you use your brain a little bit to get the most out of it. It can exploit people that make true tactical, blunders against you. That works really well. The last thing I'll wind up doing, I'm not going to do this in this stream, but the last thing I'll wind up doing is I will go through here and I'll look up all the different shields and I'll be like, okay, but in the pantheon of other shield techniques, why would they get this one? What unique thing does it offer over those shields? Is it more powerful than those, etc.? And that's benchmarking. That's like the final step to make sure that your powers have comparable trade-offs. Okay, so that's pretty good. That's an hour, and we wrote a whole shield. Look at us. And we actually combined the offense and defense a little bit there. And it's interesting, and I like the way it works quite a bit. So we're going to call that a night. I've got to go pee. And I've only done an hour, but this was a reasonably tight and capable stream. So I'm going to sign. This is Joel Clark. I'm going to sign off. I will see you guys next stream.